Morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 3233 Southeast Carruthers Street. Dropping into the 4-inch ABS clean out the front of the house here on the exterior. See if we can find this fun little tape ball we've got in the line here. Just dropped in a second ago. Get a gander first. I think this is it here. All right, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to gain access in the basement to have a little nicer, flatter shot into the line, coming behind this stuff. I've been able, it looks like, as far as I can tell anyway, it looks like I've been able to break up that bundle of tape into pieces, which is a far better scenario than having a big clump of it. Once it's broken up into pieces, it can flow off much easier. And if you have a couple tiny little scraps of tape here and there, it's nothing about that would cause a blockage if it's, as long as it's spread out. I'm going to try and get in on the back end of this thing. One, make sure that there's not more of it somewhere back where it's originating from. I'm guessing it got down this clean out at one point out here, possibly during the repair. It's really hard to say. But if it came from the interior, I also don't want to say there's a whole bunch more of it sitting back inside the house somewhere. I just dropped my foot counter for some reason. It isn't resetting. Anyway, I just dropped into the basement clean out. You got some gunk hanging down from the top of the pipe right there. Immediate appearance of that is that looks like dirt, which, I mean, when a line gets repaired, is not super weird or uncommon to get some dirt on things. By and large, the joint appears to be intact. That's a hard one. I mean, because it sounds, from my understanding anyway, it sounds like the line was just repaired. That just happened. Having some dirt in the line is not the most uncommon thing in the world. You go sliding pipe in, sometimes you snag a little bit of dirt in the process. Might have got that little guy. There's a little tiny remnant of it. This right here is not concerning in the least. Something this tiny, it would be absolutely impossible for something that size to cause a blockage. We'll revisit that here in just a moment. That thing is so tiny, I don't want to get too hung up messing with that. It's so tiny. And what'll end up happening with something like that when they're that size, again, you're in 6-inch pipe here. That's large diameter pipe. You know, the hole in your toilet, for example, the largest item that can fit through the hole in your toilet is about 2 1/4 inches. So that gives you an idea as how much leeway you have in 6-inch pipe. You know, one thing to have a big bundle of tape in the flow lines, another thing to have a little tiny scrap like that. What will happen over time is something will come down line, whether it's a wad of toilet paper or something like that. It'll bump into it and scoot it off down the line. I just want to come back here. That was the main there. I'm going to shut the water off. Well, never mind. I'm going to keep that running for just a second. Scratch that. So this right here is where we dropped in. This is right where the exterior cleanout ties into the line. All right, I'm just doing one more toilet flush there, and then also just opened up the bathtub, let things rip loose. Get a bunch of water flowing to the line. Main lateral. We're going to let the line fully drain off here for just a second. All this line drains off here. I was going to mention, keep getting sidetracked trying to get that thing out of there. What concerns me about running a machine through at this point, again, if I were out here just scoping this line right now, not coming out here to remove a big tape ball from the line, but if I were scoping this like a regular real estate transaction, ran out and found that little scrap of tape, that thing is so tiny that on its own I would never recommend hydrojetting on ever, auger or any other type of cleaning. What concerns me about going to that level, I've been doing this 13 years. I have cameraed 25,000 lines and I did drain cleaning for many, many years. An object like that, I mean, just your daily usage is far, far, far more likely to ever cause a blockage. That thing would have absolutely nothing to do if a blockage ever occurred in the line. It's just too tiny to ever cause something like that as it sits right now. The original tape ball is one thing. What you have left over here is another. But what I don't want to see, just purely from the standpoint of getting a visually perfectly clean sewer line, you go running a jetter through this thing, if you're not careful, you've got some concrete pipe at the start of the line just after the ABS. It's got some loose aggregate, at least it appeared to be. I know a repair was done, so it's also possible that in the process of removing some pipe that jarred some stuff loose from the pipe that was removed from the line. But I don't want to see someone doing a whole bunch of wear and tear and damage on the concrete pipe over trying to remove a piece of tape that's, I mean, probably an inch long or so. I mean, it's just, that just doesn't make sense. That's some clean PVC pipe right there. That's how your line looks when you don't put grease and cooking oil down it. Looks really good. Anyway, still got a little bit of water trickling off here, but and the concrete pipe out in this location here, that's looking pretty darn good. There's pretty minimal aggregate rock exposed. There's a little tiny scrap right there. Now, when we first got back into here in this location right after the repair, you've got some standing water here. And that standing water is not due to the tape ball. It's probably what allowed the tape ball to slow down potentially and hang up. But you can see right here you've got some loose aggregate. My camera's upside down right now. Well, I know that's kind of an awkward view. Normally I've got my auto leveling camera there in the shop right now. And you can probably get a better gander of it at the start of the video before I've stirred up the sediment and everything in the line. Anyway, if you've got a little bit of loose aggregate like that, you really do not want to go running a jetter through the line. Jetters are very powerful, and it's one thing to jet pipe that is newer. Plastic pipe, you can leave a jetter in the line indefinitely and it won't damage it. But concrete pipe, if you ever put your pressure washer up against a concrete driveway, you can bust a hole through it if you sit there. And that's with concrete that's brand new. So let alone stuff that's on the older end, I do not recommend doing that. And what's left over now is essentially nothing. The only thing we saw on the way back in there was a piece of tape that was about 1/4 inch wide by maybe 1/2 inch long. It's essentially nothing. I think in the process of doing that too, I knocked whatever that chunk of dirt was loose. And that stuff was looking pretty dry. It didn't look like wet dirt. By and large, that joint looks like it's all held up there. But knowing that that was there, again, most likely that dirt is just simply from the install process. If you're working in a tight spot, you've got to go slide a piece of pipe into kind of an awkward spot. Sometimes you scrape a little bit of dirt in the process of doing that, and it just gets stuck to the inside of the line. If the repair company offers some kind of warranty, you know, whether it's a year or so, 2 years, whatever, I would recommend, the best time to do it, honestly, is during the rainy season. Get into the fall where the ground gets really saturated with water. There's a lot of pipe joints out there that are exposed to the ground. I'm not talking about this line, I just mean in general. And if you scope them during the dry time of year, you will never be able to tell they're open to the ground in a lot of cases, especially if they're somewhat subtle. When you get ground saturated with water, it can create hydraulic pressure, and it can force it through pipe joints that otherwise would not allow stuff through. So, anyway, it's probably worth rescoping. There's not a warranty. I mean, it might still be worth taking a look at some point, but you know, I think it's a pretty low likelihood. That joint, by and large, there looks like it's intact and put together properly. I think it's just dirt from the install, but I don't think it's not a bad idea to rescope this, you know, once it's been raining for a while, just to ensure that joint looks like it's holding up and sealed up. Anyways, it sits here. We were able to remove nearly 100% of the stuff from the line. What remains is absolutely insignificant.